I watched my big brother collapse onto the kitchen floor like someone had reached inside his chest and ripped out his spine, and I have never wanted to hurt another human being as badly as I wanted to hurt my sister in that moment. My name is Maddie. I'm 15. My twin brother, Noah, and I have been sitting in the dark of our grandparents' basement for the last 4 hours, not talking, just scrolling through our phones and occasionally looking at each other like we're both waiting to wake up from a nightmare that keeps getting worse. My sister, Vanessa, is 17. She's upstairs in the guest room pretending to read a book, but I can hear her crying every time I go up to get water. I don't care. She can cry until she dehydrates for all I feel right now. I should back up, because none of this makes sense unless you know what things were like before everything exploded. Our mom died 6 years ago. Cancer. Fast. Brutal. The kind of thing that leaves craters in a family that never fully fill in. I was 9. Noah was 9. Vanessa was 11. Our dad, Derek, was 36 and suddenly a single parent of 3 kids who were all dealing with grief in completely different ways. I got quiet. Noah got angry. Vanessa got controlling. Dad just got sad, and he stayed sad for a very long time. He didn't date for the first 4 years. Not even close. He threw himself into work, into us, into making sure we had everything we needed while quietly falling apart in his bedroom at night. I know this because I used to hear him crying through walls. Noah and I would sneak into Vanessa's room sometimes, and the 3 of us would just sit there in the dark, not saying anything. Because what was there to say? Our mom was gone. Our dad was broken. And we were all just trying to survive. Then, 2 years ago, Dad met someone. Her name is Priya. She's 34, works as an architect, and has this laugh that fills up an entire room like sunlight. She's Indian, grew up in Toronto, moved to our city about 5 years ago for work. She's also a widow. Her husband died in a car accident 8 years ago, right around the same time we lost Mom. She doesn't have kids of her own, but she wanted them. She just never got the chance. Dad introduced us to her slowly, carefully. The first few months, we only saw her every couple of weeks. Dinner at a restaurant, a movie at the house. She never pushed. She never tried too hard. She brought us small gifts, books for Vanessa, art supplies for Noah, vintage video games for me, but never made a big deal out of it. Just left them on the counter with a note that said, "Thought you might like this." No pressure. Vanessa hated her immediately. I didn't understand it at first. Priya was nothing like the horror stories you hear about step-parents. She wasn't trying to replace Mom. She didn't tell us what to do. She didn't insert herself into our family rituals or demand we call her anything other than her name. She just showed up, was kind, and left when we asked her to. But Vanessa saw something else. She saw a threat. I think part of it was that Priya was actually good for Dad. He started smiling again. Real smiles, not the tight ones he used to give us when we asked if he was okay. He started cooking again, playing music in the house, making plans for the future. And Vanessa couldn't handle it. She told me once, late at night, when we were both supposed to be asleep, that it felt like Dad was betraying Mom by being happy. I tried to explain that Mom would have wanted him to be happy, but Vanessa just shook her head and said, "You don't get it. You were too young." Maybe she was right. I don't know. What I do know is that for the last 2 years, Vanessa has made it her personal mission to make Priya's life as difficult as possible. It started small, ignoring her when she spoke, leaving the room when Priya walked in, making snide comments under her breath that we could all hear but couldn't quite catch. Then it escalated. She started picking fights at dinner, accusing Priya of trying to control us, of changing the house, of stealing Dad away. Priya never took the bait. She'd just say something like, "I hear that you're upset. Let's talk when you're calmer," and go back to eating. That made Vanessa even angrier. The thing about Priya is that she's almost impossibly patient. She has this way of staying calm when everyone else is losing their minds, like she's got some internal thermostat that just doesn't register chaos. She told us once that she learned it from years of working on construction sites with angry contractors. But I think it's deeper than that. I think losing someone you love either makes you brittle or makes you flexible. And Priya came out the other side as elastic as a rubber band. She can bend without breaking. But even rubber bands have a limit. There were a few times over the last 2 years when Vanessa pushed too far and Priya snapped back, and those moments were genuinely terrifying because they were so out of character. Once, Vanessa told her that mom was prettier than her, smarter than her, and that dad was only with Priya because he was lonely and desperate. Priya looked at her for a long moment, then said very quietly, "Your mother sounds like she was a remarkable woman. It's a shame you're using her memory as a weapon instead of honoring it." Then she got up and left the room. Vanessa cried for an hour. Another time, Vanessa accused Priya of only being with Dad for his money, which is insane, because Priya makes more than he does. Priya just actually laughed, and said, "Sweetheart, if I wanted money, I would have married a hedge fund manager. I'm here because I love your father, not that you'd recognize love if it hit you in the face." That one stung Vanessa so badly she didn't speak to Priya for 2 weeks. But the thing that actually broke everything happened 3 days ago. We were all at the house. Dad and Priya had been talking about wedding plans. They got engaged 6 months ago, and the wedding was supposed to be this summer. Noah and I were in the living room playing a board game. Vanessa was in her room, supposedly doing homework. Dad and Priya were in the kitchen, and I overheard Dad say something about adoption. Not about adopting us now. We're too old for that, and none of us want that anyway, but about the possibility of Priya being a legal guardian or something when we're adults. Just paperwork stuff. Nothing dramatic. Vanessa must have been listening from the stairs, because she came flying into the kitchen like a missile. I have never heard anyone scream the way Vanessa screamed that night. It wasn't just loud. It was ugly. It was a kind of screaming that comes from somewhere deep and rotten, the kind that makes you want to cover your ears and hide. She called Dad every name you can imagine. She told him he was betraying Mom's memory. She said he was a terrible father who cared more about getting laid than about his own children. Then she turned on Priya, and that's when it got really bad. She called Priya a gold digger, a home wrecker, a substitute teacher who failed upward. She said Priya was desperate and pathetic, and that no one would ever love her because she was fundamentally unlovable. She said she wished Priya had died instead of her husband, because at least then Dad might have had a chance at finding someone decent. She screamed that Priya was nothing, would always be nothing, and that the only reason she was here was because our mom was dead and Priya was vulture enough to swoop in and take her place. Priya didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, very still, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. Her knuckles were white. Her face was completely blank, which was somehow worse than if she'd been crying or yelling back. Dad was trying to get Vanessa to stop, to go to her room, but Vanessa wasn't listening. She was on a roll, and she wasn't going to stop until she had destroyed everything. And then Priya spoke. She didn't yell. She didn't even raise her voice. She just looked at Vanessa with this expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not sadness, just exhaustion, and said, "You know what, Vanessa? You're right. I am nothing to you. And after tonight, I think I'd like to keep it that way." Then she walked out of the kitchen, went upstairs, and started packing a bag. Dad followed her. We could hear them talking in low, urgent voices, but we couldn't make out the words. Noah and I just sat there, frozen, staring at each other. Vanessa was still standing in the kitchen, breathing hard, like she'd just run a marathon. She looked triumphant for about 30 seconds. Then she looked confused. Then she looked scared. Priya came downstairs with a suitcase. Dad was behind her, crying, actually crying, tears running down his face, begging her to stay, to talk, to give them another chance. Priya shook her head. She said, "I can't do this anymore, Derek. I love you. I love the boys. But I can't keep being the punching bag for a girl who has decided I'm the enemy. I deserve better than that. And so do you." She hugged Noah. She hugged me. She told us she loved us and that none of this was our fault. Then she looked at Vanessa, opened her mouth like she was going to say something, and just closed it again. She shook her head, walked out the front door, and got into her car. Dad stood in the doorway, watching her drive away until the taillights disappeared. Then he closed the door, leaned his forehead against it, and started sobbing. I have never hated anyone the way I hated my sister in that moment. The last 3 days have been a blur. Priya isn't answering Dad's calls. She sent him one text message, just one, that said, "I need space. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Please take care of the kids." Dad has been walking around the house like a ghost. He hasn't yelled at Vanessa. He hasn't even looked at her. He just moves from room to room, sitting down, staring at nothing, getting up, moving again. He forgot to eat yesterday. Noah had to make him a sandwich and stand there while he ate it. Vanessa has been apologizing nonstop. She keeps saying she didn't mean it, that she was just angry, that she loves Priya and wants her to come back. Dad doesn't respond. He just looks through her like she's made of glass. Last night, she tried to hug him, and he stepped back and said, "I can't right now, Vanessa. I just can't." His voice was so flat, so empty. I've never heard him sound like that. We're at our grandparents' house now. Dad said he needed a few days to think, to try to reach Priya, to figure out what to do. Our grandparents don't know the full story, just that there was a big fight and Priya left. They keep asking questions we don't know how to answer. Vanessa's been crying on and off, and part of me feels bad for her, but a bigger part of me just wants to scream in her face. I talked to Noah last night, after everyone else was asleep. We both admitted that we haven't been perfect either. We've said things to Priya that we shouldn't have. We've rolled our eyes at her, ignored her, made her feel unwelcome. Not as badly as Vanessa, but enough. Enough to add to the pile. Enough to make her feel like she was fighting a war on 3 fronts instead of 1. I think that's what hurts the most. Priya didn't have to try as hard as she did. She could have walked away years ago, after the first time Vanessa called her a bitch, or the second time she made Dad cry. But she stayed. She kept showing up. She kept loving us even when we made it impossible. And we repaid her by treating her like an intruder in her own home. Dad called us this morning. He said Priya agreed to meet with him next week, just the 2 of them, to talk. He didn't sound hopeful. He sounded tired, like a man who's been running for years and just now realized he doesn't know where he's going. He said he loves us, all 3 of us, but that he doesn't know if he can keep doing this. He didn't explain what this meant. He didn't have to. Vanessa is supposed to start individual therapy next week. Dad made it non-negotiable. She didn't fight it, which might be the first sign that she actually understands how badly she messed up. Noah and I are going to start going too, separately, because we both realize we have things we need to work through that we can't do in family sessions. But none of that changes what happened. None of it brings Priya back. I don't know if she's coming back. I don't know if our family is going to survive this. I don't know if Dad will ever look at Vanessa the same way again, or if Vanessa will ever forgive herself for what she did. What I do know is that I'm sitting in my grandparents' basement, listening to my sister cry upstairs, and I can't bring myself to go comfort her. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. She broke something that might not be fixable. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at her without remembering the sound of Priya's car driving away in the snow.